denied at the border, disowned by the future king, and possibly left standing alone behind palace walls. What happened in Dubai wasn't just a travel setback, it may have been the moment Meghan Markle's global influence cracked in public. Why would one of the most reputation-conscious cities in the world quietly refuse entry to the Duchess of Sussex? And why would Prince William respond with a statement so sharp it felt like a permanent severing? Because what unfolded at Dubai International Airport wasn't random. Behind that private interview room, behind that brief but brutal palace message, behind Prince Harry's silence, there's a deeper story involving diplomacy, financial pressure, and a brand struggling to hold its ground. And Harry's the part few are asking, what if the decision was already made before her plane even landed? By the end of this story, you'll see why Dubai wasn't just a rejection. February 4th, 2026. Late afternoon lights stretched across the glass walls of Dubai International Airport. The city shimmered outside, controlled, polished, deliberate. In a place where image is currency and discretion is power, arrivals are rarely chaotic. They are choreographed. And this one was supposed to be seamless. When Meghan Markle stepped off her flight, there were no flashing cameras, no public spectacle, just a quiet, high-level business visit. Meetings had allegedly been arranged with luxury brand executives. A private dinner with regional investors was penciled in. The tone was meant to be elegant, understated, strategic. But within minutes of approaching immigration control, something shifted. No raised voices. No dramatic confrontation. Just a pause. A second glance at a passport. A brief exchange between officers. Then a polite request, step aside. That was the moment the trip began to unravel. She was escorted to a private interview room, standard procedure, officials would later insist. Her documents were reviewed. Questions were asked. Nothing aggressive. Nothing accusatory. Yet the atmosphere reportedly changed from routine to restrained. And here's where the story takes its first turn. This wasn't about paperwork errors. It wasn't about a missing visa stamp. According to diplomatic observers, the review focused on the purpose of the visit. Was it personal? Was it commercial? Was it media-related? The classification matters in the UAE, especially for high-profile individuals whose presence can trigger political or reputational implications. Within the hour, the decision was delivered. She would not be admitted. No public explanation. No formal accusation. Just a quiet directive to return on the next available flight. In most cases, that would have been the end of it. A private inconvenience handled discreetly. But this case was different because of who she is, and because of who she used to represent. What makes this moment explosive isn't just the denial. It's what reportedly happened next. Sources familiar with the exchange claim that her team attempted to clarify her status, referencing her marriage to Prince Harry and her position within the extended British royal family. Not as a threat, not as leverage, but as context. And that's when the deeper issues surfaced. Dubai doesn't operate on symbolism. It operates on verification. Titles mean little without institutional backing. And backing, in this case, required confirmation from London. That confirmation came swiftly, and it was not supportive. But before we get to the palace response, consider what this meant in real time. In a city that builds its global partnerships on stability and predictability, uncertainty is risk. A public figure facing ongoing controversies, fluctuating brand alliances, and institutional ambiguity can represent reputational exposure. And Dubai does not gamble on exposure. So the question becomes, was this simply border discretion? Or was it a calculated distance? Because here's what most people missed: high-level diplomatic channels often communicate quietly before high-profile arrivals. Background clarifications, status confirmations, risk assessments, which raises a chilling possibility. What if the answer had already been prepared before she even landed? As she was escorted back through the terminal, no spectacle, no headlines, yet the real storm wasn't in Dubai. It was waiting in London. And the response from Buckingham Palace would transform a quiet denial into a global rupture. But that comes next. If Dubai was the spark, London was the explosion. Less than 24 hours after the airport incident, a statement emerged from Buckingham Palace, brief, clinical, and unmistakably final. It wasn't issued through anonymous aides. It wasn't softened by palace phrasing. It carried direct authority. And at the center of it was Prince William. The British royal family will not provide diplomatic sponsorship for Meghan Markle. She no longer represents the crown in any capacity. 17 words that landed like a verdict. This wasn't a subtle distancing. It was institutional severance. In modern royal history, disagreements are managed quietly. Internal fractures rarely become public declarations. Yet this time, the message was delivered on the record, precise and irreversible. Why? Because this wasn't just about Dubai. It was about control of the royal brand. Since stepping back from senior duties in 2020, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have existed in a gray zone, no longer working royals, yet still carrying titles. That ambiguity created leverage. It allowed selective association, strategic references, occasional symbolic alignment when useful. Dubai forced clarity. When UAE officials reportedly sought confirmation of status, the palace had two options: remain vague or draw a hard boundary. They chose the boundary, and insiders suggest it wasn't a spontaneous decision. For months, concerns had reportedly been building inside royal circles about the unauthorized commercial use of royal affiliation. Not illegal, not necessarily improper, but increasingly uncomfortable for an institution built on neutrality. The monarchy survives on perception, stability, continuity, restraint. It cannot afford even the appearance of endorsing private ventures abroad, especially in regions where diplomacy is layered and delicate. That's why the language mattered. She no longer represents the crown. Not temporarily, not conditionally, no qualifiers, no diplomatic cushion. But the most revealing detail came quietly afterward. Senior Commonwealth observers confirmed that Princess and one of the monarchy's most trusted diplomatic figures reinforced the message through private correspondence. She emphasized that neither Meghan nor Harry act on behalf of the United Kingdom in any official capacity. It was a coordinated move. Public clarity from William, institutional reinforcement behind the scenes, and Harry's the rehook that changes everything. This wasn't just rejection. It was preemption. Multiple diplomatic sources suggest that palace representatives had already communicated with international partners days earlier, clarifying that any private travel by Meghan should not be interpreted as royal engagement. If true, that means Dubai didn't simply deny entry. They acted with foreknowledge, which transforms the narrative from embarrassment to strategy. Because once the palace formally distances itself, the global equation shifts. Governments reassess. Investors hesitate. Partnerships stall. Not because of scandal, but because of uncertainty. And uncertainty is reputational risk. For Meghan, the Dubai incident may have been intended as a reset, a move into new markets, new alliances, new financial streams. Instead, it triggered the one thing she likely didn't anticipate: official, documented separation from the institution she once criticized. For William, it was about protecting the crown. For Dubai, it was about minimizing exposure. For Harry, silence. He issued no defense, no clarification, no counterstatement. And in royal dynamics, silence can speak louder than protest. Because when the palace draws a line publicly, crossing back over it becomes nearly impossible. And what makes this moment historic isn't anger. It's finality. The monarchy didn't attack. It disengaged. Completely. And once that door closes, reopening it requires something far greater than a title. It requires trust, which may be the one asset now in shortest supply. And the fallout? It didn't stop at the palace gates. It followed them home.
Look, I was really ashamed to say it at the time, and ashamed to have to admit it to Harry, especially, because I know how much loss he's suffered. But I knew that if I didn't say it, that I would do it. And I just didn't want to be alive anymore.
Public rejection is one thing. Private fallout is another. After Dubai and the palace statement, attention focused on diplomacy. But the deeper tremor was unfolding thousands of miles away inside the fragile infrastructure of the Sussex Empire. Because Harry's the part few analysts are willing to say out loud, Dubai didn't create the crisis. It exposed it. In the months leading up to February 2026, the momentum surrounding Meghan Markle and Prince Harry had already slowed. Major media partnerships that once symbolized independence were quietly cooling. Industry insiders described enthusiasm turning into caution. Meetings that once felt collaborative began to feel evaluative. And in high-level business circles, evaluation is often the first step toward exit. The post-royal strategy had been ambitious streaming deals, podcast platforms, philanthropic expansion, global speaking engagements. The message was clear: independence would not mean obscurity. But sustainability is different from visibility. Streaming executives, according to multiple entertainment reporters, had grown increasingly risk-aware. Brand managers began analyzing engagement metrics rather than headlines. And philanthropic transparency, once assumed, became scrutinized under tighter regulatory lenses in both the US and UK individually. None of these pressures were fatal. Collectively, they created instability. Now at Dubai, when an international hub publicly declines entry even without explanation, the optics ripple. Investors begin asking procedural questions. Legal teams reassess exposure. Public relations firms model worst-case scenarios. And the rehook instability compounds faster than scandal. Because scandal can be managed. Instability cannot. Sources familiar with the couple's California circle describe a household under visible strain in recent weeks. Not explosive arguments, not dramatic scenes, but tension, quiet, strategic tension. Harry's approach, insiders suggest, has shifted toward de-escalation. Fewer public responses, less direct engagement, a preference for silence over confrontation. Observers note that since the Dubai incident, he has avoided public commentary entirely. For Meghan, however, silence may not serve the same purpose. Her professional trajectory has always relied on forward motion, new initiatives, new narratives, new positioning. Stalling is not a natural posture. And when two public figures operate on different survival strategies, friction forms. What makes this moment uniquely precarious is that both diplomacy and revenue streams intersect here. Legal consultations, security costs, staff transitions, all of it requires liquidity, stability, predictability. If Dubai represented a potential expansion into a financially strong region, its collapse wasn't symbolic. It was material. And that's where personal dynamics begin to merge with professional ones. Close observers say the difference in long-term vision is becoming clearer. Harry reportedly values restoration of private normalcy, a lower profile, fewer institutional battles. Meghan's strategy has historically favored reinvention through visibility. Neither is inherently wrong, but they are not identical paths. And the world is now watching for signs of divergence. Another overlooked detail: high-profile isolation can shrink social circles quickly. Hollywood alliances often align with momentum. When momentum stalls, invitations thin. Strategic friendships recalibrate. That doesn't mean abandonment, but it does mean reassessment. The deeper question now isn't whether Dubai was fair or unfair. It's whether it accelerated something already underway. Because reputational capital operates like financial capital, once confidence dips, recovery requires disproportionate effort. And for the first time since stepping away from royal duties, the Sussex narrative feels reactive rather than proactive. Which brings us to the most delicate layer of all. What happens when brand, marriage, diplomacy, and identity are all tied to the same fragile thread? If Section 1 was the denial, and Section 2 was the disavowal, then Section 3 is the realization the pressure isn't coming from one direction. It's coming from everywhere. And in high-pressure environments, even the strongest alliances are tested. The question now isn't whether the storm is real. It's whether the partnership at its center can withstand it. Because the next chapter won't be written in airports or palaces. It will be written at home.
The fact that I fell in love with Meghan so incredibly quickly was sort of confirmation to me that everything, all the stars were aligned, everything was just perfect. It was this beautiful woman just sort of literally tripped and fell into my life. I fell into her life.
There are moments in public life that feel temporary: a headline cycle, a week of controversy, a trending debate that fades. And then there are moments that redraw the map. Dubai was not loud. There were no viral confrontations, no airport footage, no emotional statements delivered into cameras. But in power dynamics, silence can be seismic. When Meghan Markle was denied entry, it was procedural. When Prince William publicly declined diplomatic sponsorship, it became structural. When Prince Harry remained silent, it turned personal. And together, those three elements formed something bigger than a travel issue. They formed a verdict. Because influence, at its highest level, operates on recognition. Recognition from institutions. Recognition from governments. Recognition from financial partners. When that recognition becomes conditional or disappears, the shift is immediate. For years, the Sussex narrative has existed in tension: independence versus institution, freedom versus structure, reinvention versus tradition. That tension fueled interviews, documentaries, publishing deals, and global conversation. But tension only works when both sides remain engaged. Dubai revealed what happens when one side disengages entirely. The palace did not argue. It did not negotiate. It did not offer partial support. It clarified. And clarity can be more devastating than conflict. From a geopolitical standpoint, the message was simple: Meghan does not represent the British crown. Not symbolically, not diplomatically, not commercially. That statement travels faster than headlines. Governments read it carefully. Investors interpret it conservatively. Advisors adjust strategies accordingly. And this is where the deeper recalculation begins. For Meghan, the global repositioning strategy relied on soft power, the residual gravity of royal association combined with independent celebrity capital. That hybrid model created access. It opened doors. But hybrid identities are fragile. Once one half formally withdraws recognition, the remaining half must stand alone. That's not impossible, but it requires rebuilding from a different foundation. For Harry, the calculus is even more complicated. He remains biologically and historically tied to the monarchy. His identity cannot fully detach from it, even if his role has. Watching the institution publicly distance itself from his wife forces a choice that is not theoretical, it is lived. Stand firm in independence, or seek quiet recalibration. Silence, in this context, becomes strategy. Observers have noted that since the palace statement, Harry has neither condemned nor amplified it. That neutrality can mean many things: loyalty, fatigue, internal conflict. But it undeniably signals caution. And here is the rehook that reframes everything: this may not be the end of influence, it may be the beginning of transformation. History shows that public figures often experience collapse before reinvention. The difference lies in adaptation. Can Meghan pivot away from royal adjacency entirely? Can she construct a narrative independent of palace proximity? Can Harry redefine his role without institutional backing? Those are open questions. What is clear is that the global stage has shifted. Dubai did not humiliate. It clarified. The palace did not attack. It withdrew. And the world, watching both moves, adjusted accordingly. Which leaves one final reality: power does not disappear overnight, but it does redistribute. And when it does, the people who once relied on inherited gravity must generate their own. Whether that becomes resurgence or retreat depends on what happens next, privately, strategically, and personally. Because the next move will not be symbolic. It will be decisive.
But do you have a personal connection to any famous TV actresses?
I might know one.
Okay.
But listen, Stephen, I'll do anything. I'll fly myself to an audition, settle a baseless lawsuit with the White House.
In the end, the most telling detail isn't the denied entry stamp. It isn't even the palace statement. It's the silence that followed. No dramatic rebuttal. No public counteroffensive. No televised explanation. Just a steady quiet from Montecito and a firm boundary from London. And that quiet is where the real story now lives. For years, Meghan's narrative was built on voice interviews, documentaries, speeches, declarations of autonomy. The palace, by contrast, has always relied on restraint. The Dubai moment flipped those dynamics. The institution spoke. She did not. That inversion matters. Because in global influence, perception is currency. When governments hesitate, when investors pause, when even allies step back to reassess, the environment changes. Not explosively, but fundamentally. Dubai was not just about immigration discretion. It was about legitimacy. The palace statement was not about emotion. It was about jurisdiction. And Harry's silence may not be weakness, it may be recognition. Recognition that the era of ambiguity is over. The Sussex brand once thrived in gray space, not fully royal, not fully private. That space has narrowed. The world now sees clearer lines: institutional authority on one side, independent celebrity on the other. And independence, without institutional reinforcement, demands a new strategy. The unanswered question is not whether Meghan can recover. It is whether recovery will require a complete redefinition of identity, one no longer tethered, even symbolically, to royal heritage. Because once a door closes publicly, reopening it is not about status. It is about trust. And trust, once clarified, is rarely renegotiated on the same terms.
If you enjoy in-depth coverage of the stories shaping celebrity culture and entertainment, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay connected for the next big story.